a lot of Krav Maga people, the more progressive types, are incorporating wrestling, incorporating jiu-jitsu, incorporating boxing and kickboxing, and they're doing real firearms training and things like that.
Yes.
And they're moving more towards kind of being actually real, actually realistic.
And actually well-rounded.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu
and the jiu-jitsu guys are almost going the opposite direction.
Welcome to the Second Plan A podcast, where we take hard-earned lessons from the mats and convert them into tools for navigating life's challenges. I'm Amber Hoover. I'd rather stick to the plan and read the plan.
And I'm Ryan Hoover, and that's why we have an iPad, I guess.
So today we are moving on to our second plan A.
Okay.
Today we are keeping the conversation incomplete as we trek through your recent book release, The Incomplete Guide to Modern Krav Maga. From the pages to the mats, we're going to cover what it takes to bring honesty to conversations around and training for violence. Are you ready?
Yes.
Well, that was very direct. What a nice complete sentence. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's start with why incomplete. What's behind that title? How does it reflect you?
I mean, obviously there's maybe a touch of sarcasm there. However, I truly believe it. I mean, the idea is for an actual living, breathing, evolving self-defense system, program, martial art, whatever you want to call it, to stay true to that. It's never going to be complete. It's never going to be finished. It's always going to be open for discussion and debate and change. And one of the main reasons that I haven't written this book until now is because when you put something pen to paper and you label it a thing, then almost anything not in that book in some ways can be perceived as wrong or not worthy or whatever. And the truth is, it's just not possible to put everything in a single manuscript or 100 manuscripts that could possibly be relevant to dealing with violence. And so I wanted to make sure that, one, people understood that it is incomplete, because it's as soon as we kind of bookend it, button it up, say we're done, then I think the system, the program kind of ends and dies there. It doesn't want to evolve anymore because you've put a hard stop on it. And then two, to make sure that just because something's not in here doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong. The idea of incomplete, for me, I think kind of came, and I've probably talked about this before, kind of came from Bobby Tawada a little bit, Grandmaster Bobby Tawada, Balintawakernese, and his whole idea of once you reach full qualified instructor with him, you being semi-advanced. That's kind of like the first big step, but it's just that, it's up to you now to then take it and do what you think works for you based on your other experiences with the information that he's given you. He doesn't put a black belt on you or, make you a grandmaster, Tuhan, whatever, blah, blah. And then, it's like, it's done, it's over. No, yeah. Now you're really just now getting started. And so that was an important part of this for me, because honestly, I've had all of these things and ideas in my head for a long time. It's just the thought of putting them in a manuscript and then people seeing or feeling as if that's a finished product kind of scared me a little bit.
Can I say that getting my jiu-jitsu black belt was the biggest feeling of, oh wow, this is day one I've ever experienced. Yeah. Like getting other ranks, you feel it a little bit. There's an excitement for the achievement, but in the back of your mind, you're like, oh man, I've got to grow into this. Because about the time you get comfortable at blue belt and feel like you're at the top of the food chain, they throw a purple belt on you and you're like, oh man, I am back at the bottom. But black belt for sure, I was like, wow, it almost feels like I just got a white belt put on me. Like I know I have a huge journey ahead of me from this point. And that's interesting to think of that existing on paper in pages, because it's,
Right.
the same idea. Like, this isn't any kind of endpoint. This is a beginning point. And also, all of this is right now, but also might be wrong. And I might disagree with it later. And
Yep.
your words can be quote unquote used against you. And you can be like, yep, I said that, but I don't actually believe that now. Like, there's a lot wrapped up within
Hmm.
the journey.
Yeah. I mean, only a handful of people have read this book at this point. And one of the guys that's read it, he reached out and he's like, you should be putting this in different places, because there's a lot of concepts and philosophies and things in here that goes just so far beyond just, this is a self-defense book, or this is a
Self-defense.
Krav
Yeah.
Maga book, or whatever. And those kinds of things truly are, infinite. I mean,
Yeah.
when you start talking about the philosophical side of life, violence, growth, evolution, those kinds of things, you know, that is never ending. And so, I mean, I feel like I could write 10 more volumes and still it would be called incomplete.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's interesting because a lot of what's in there is what we're doing with this podcast. Breaking that barrier between lessons on the mat and
right?
being able to look at how this applies to life. And you have chapters in there called "Mindset Isn't Magic,"
Yeah,
and we hammered that home for a good few episodes.
right.
You talk about fitness as a weapon, and the benefits that these types of things have far beyond the actual physical realm that they might be intended for.
The book's just over 300 pages, and almost exactly 50% of that is not technique.
Yeah.
It's discussions about mindset, about fitness, about incorporating wrestling, about coaching methodologies. I didn't want it to be, here's a Krav Maga manual.
Yeah.
You know,
It's fun. The back of the book says, "The world doesn't need another complete guide. It needs an honest one."
yeah.
And there are plenty of manuals out there for Krav Maga from
I wrote some of them.
yeah. And do you agree with them still? Can we
So,
use your words against you?
so here's the thing about those books. I wrote those books, or co-wrote those books, co-authored those books from the perspective of a particular organization. And I think those books accurately reflect the way that organization presents Krav Maga.
You were basically ghostwriting
Yeah.
for an
Yes.
entity rather
Yes.
than you as a person.
Yeah.
Who
And,
are
and so in that respect, there are plenty of things in the books that I don't agree with from a self-defense, self-protection, fighting violence standpoint. But in terms of what those books sought out to do, which was accurately represent Krav Maga as seen through the lens of Krav Maga worldwide, I think they do a really good job of that.
Yeah.
And I still think, I tell people this all the time, my favorite one of that series is Krav Maga for Beginners. I think there's a lot of really good material in that book, particularly outside of the technical
right
parts of it.
like what you
Right.
leaned into here?
Yeah.
Who, and you don't have to maybe answer the first part of this, but who is that book for versus who's this book for?
Those books are, again, like, if you ascribe to the way that Krav Maga worldwide and honestly most Krav Maga organizations present that material from a principle standpoint and from a technical standpoint, then those books are for you. If you don't have any necessary allegiance to an organization or a thought pattern, thought process, whatever, and you're looking for an open, honest look at violence, how to deal with violence, how to prepare for violence, things that aren't sugar-coated, maybe some things from a technical standpoint, not maybe, definitely things from a technical standpoint that are far outside of what traditional Krav Maga is doing, then I think you would enjoy this book. One of the big problems I had was when it came to actually naming the book, because the reality is We could say the incomplete guide to self-defense. We could say the incomplete guide to self-protection. We could say the incomplete guide to mixed modern combatives. We could say the incomplete guide to MMA for self-defense. Like there's a lot of different monikers we could put on that would be incredibly accurate. And one of the things I did worry about was by putting Modern Krav Maga on it, I would kind of pigeonhole it a little bit and maybe scare some people off that I think otherwise would enjoy the material that's in there.
Yeah.
So that was a big internal debate for me. The people that have seen it and read it so far have told me that they think that I chose correctly. It's something that I'll probably always have an internal debate about. It's, but.
Well, I think we've talked about self-defense being a marketing term. And within our centers, we've gone back and forth between whether we're leaning into the idea of Krav Maga, leaning into the idea of self-defense. And the reality is, words don't mean anything. Words mean what we give them. And since we can't really control what everybody comes in thinking about the thing, at least we can control what they might think leaving the thing.
Yeah. And I think if anybody that's maybe on the fence about reality-based self-defense or about Krav Maga, or maybe not even on the fence, maybe they've decided Krav Maga is garbage,
Sure. I mean, I could see that. I've seen Krav Maga that would make me think that.
I would be shocked if they read this book cover to cover and they came away thinking that this was representative of that.
Yeah. That they would think that it is the same in the same basket.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part of writing all of this? I mean, we've covered already just in the first few minutes of this podcast, kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And honestly, what we've been talking about is what made it hard. Honestly, I thought I was done at probably around 200 pages. And almost every day or every other day after that, I was adding another 5, 6, 8 pages. Because I would think of, man, it would be really nice to have this and this and, so even though I named it the Incomplete Guide, and even though I knew I was going to explain why, there are just so many things that I think are relevant to beginners, experienced martial artists, coaches, to really understanding how to approach violence from a student standpoint, how to approach violence from a coaching standpoint, that I really wanted to give it all, And I didn't, but I came pretty close. Like
you did. It wasn't for lack of trying that you didn't. It was just because it's not possible.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it wasn't going to be practical.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an 8.5 by 11 book, over 300 pages.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, Well, I mean, you've been doing Krav Maga for multiple decades. If it would be
you don't
like
have to say it like that,
but it's a great thing. But it would be like if a singer who has been performing for decades and has decades of songs under their belt came on stage for their 60 to 90 minute set with the goal of singing everything. Like, you're not going to get all that in. So you do.
I mean, I could have taken the Dylan approach and given you nothing.
Only play things never heard of. Guys, I didn't really know what I was getting at. Ryan and his daughter knew. Both daughters knew. I was not informed.
We went to
the Outlaw Music Festival.
Yeah,
it's in its 10th year. I don't know.
I don't know that I would call it a festival, but
it was a concert.
The last 2 acts were Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson. Bob Dylan's 84, Willie Nelson's 92. It was, by the time Willie came on for the final act, it was probably 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was still 85 degrees outside. He's sitting under the lights on the stage. So you're talking about a 92-year-old man in 85-degree weather. He played for just over an hour straight, played guitar, sang. Dylan came out. Dylan has a discography like nobody. I mean, the dude's written over 600 songs. And he's got songs that are very, very well known, like in the pantheon of singer-songwriter kind of songs. He's got some of the biggest ones,
which is why I was fairly confident going into this that I would know some Dylan and know
he
some
played
Willie
like
Nelson.
none of them.
I didn't know.
I think he played 12 songs maybe. 2 of them were songs that anybody would have heard of, and the arrangements were so different that I think most people didn't even recognize them. He did 0 crowd engagement. He
Which
came
again,
out.
they knew. I was not aware that
yeah.
he was just going to come out and sing. I was like, oh, we're not talking. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
He, it's an amphitheater, so you have multiple camera setups. You've got cameramen moving around. They zoom in on artists. They zoom in on the band, whatever. Single camera right in front of the band. It never moves, never zooms in. And I mean, I'm talking about you can never even see. It might not even been Dylan out there for all I know.
It's unconfirmed.
So he never engages with the crowd. Finishes his last song, gets up, walks away.
I was not ready for this. However, if you did a book tour, everyone, Ryan would walk out.
Expect something very similar.
He would do his thing. He would say his thing. He would walk off.
Willie engaged with the crowd. Willie talked. There were multiple camera angles. Willie played the songs that you would expect and want Willie to play. He got choked up at one point playing a song that I was not familiar with, but was a really good song, especially considering the milieu around why he was playing it.
Last leaf on the tree.
Yeah. And I think for Willie, it was a reference to the Highwaymen, and him being the last one of that kind of legendary group. Anyway, if you go to a Dylan concert and expect anything other than what I just described, you are going to be sorely disappointed. I recommend going and seeing, I can't even think of what it's called now, but Timothée Chalamet played Dylan in a recent biopic. And it's pretty representative of who I think Dylan mostly is. I enjoyed the movie. I thought the movie was good.
We still need to watch that so that I understand. I was not ready. Okay, fitness as a weapon. No, I'm kidding. I know how we got there, but I don't know how we got there. All right, so we were talking about this naming convention, and a couple of the terms you dropped, really one of the terms you dropped, I wanted to lean in on because it sounds like it should be repetitive, redundant, reality-based self-defense.
Yeah.
And I know that term.
I hate it. I use it because people know it, but
right. But I mean, I feel like it's been co-opted for a beat down versus training and in the dirt or in gravel or whatever, rather than on mats. And there's a time and place for that for sure.
Yeah.
But Absolutely. It takes away the actual training part, I feel.
Yeah.
But anyway, any thoughts on RBSD, real world self-defense? And
I think it's a marketing term, you know. My problem with it, generally speaking, in more traditional Krav Maga circles, is just because you say something is real or say something is reality based or say we're doing scenario work doesn't make it so. You know.
Most recently, spray bottles to the face.
Oh my god! There's just it's kind of a circus. It's kind of a clown show, and I totally understand why. Going back to the previous part of the conversation, I totally understand why a lot of people look at what they see as Krav Maga and they're like, what is this shit? You know, because that's me. Yeah. I'm like, what is this shit? You know, just saying it's real doesn't make it so. And, you know, if you're having people get bound with zip ties and a pillowcase over their head and then putting a gun to them and now saying defend, I get that it sells seminars and I get that it looks, you know, to me it looks goofy as fuck on Instagram, but I get why
it gets
people
engagement.
Do it because it gets a ton of engagement. And it's, I guess on some level it's sexy because look, people will go to 4 John Wick movies.
Yeah.
Right? People will go to whatever the John Wick spinoff movie was. Is it Ballerina? Something like that? Yeah, no, that's a whole other story. But it's a multi-million, billion-dollar franchise.
Yeah.
People would not go to a true reality-based violent movie. You know,
that would not be flashy.
It would not be flashy. It would be fights would be over really quickly and not elegantly, and
hopefully it would be a lot of not getting in those fights.
Yeah, it would. There would be a lot of de-escalation and avoidance, and you know, it would sell no tickets.
Yeah,
you know, and so I get how that happens. And there's a section in the book, a chapter on the book, where it talks about the idea of, are you actually training, or is this LARPing?
I was going to bring that up. Yep.
And I think that's a big thing in our space, especially when you start getting into the gun stuff. There's a kind of a discussion now in some circles that have surprised me a little bit, but now you're seeing like all of a sudden jiu-jitsu guys are putting on suits and they're rolling, and all of a sudden there's a gun involved, and it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. But it's, again, it's a ton of engagement, and now all of a sudden these jiu-jitsu guys can say that they do combatives or they do reality-based self-defense or whatever. There's nothing remotely, it's all performative.
Yeah.
It's there's nothing remotely educational about what they're doing. There's no training involved. It is take two guys that know jiu-jitsu, have them put on suits and fight. And I'm using fight in quotation marks because they're not really fighting.
They're not striking. They're rolling. Right. It's jiu-jitsu.
And then throw a gun in.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's wildly irresponsible. They don't have a good understanding of rules for dealing with and using firearms in the real world or in training. It seems mostly dangerous, honestly, the way that they're doing it for the participants and the crowd. And I think there is an argument to be made that Krav Maga circles, and I'm seeing this come up now in some online spaces, that a lot of Krav Maga people, the more progressive types, are incorporating wrestling, incorporating jiu-jitsu, incorporating boxing and kickboxing, and they're doing real firearms training and things like that.
Yes.
And they're moving more towards kind of being actually real, actually realistic,
and actually well-rounded.
Yes.
Jiu-jitsu
and the jiu-jitsu guys are almost going the opposite direction, where
jiu-jitsu is the only answer.
You could have made an argument for the past several years that jiu-jitsu had kind of lost its way when it came to competition, just because of the way that comps are scored and the way that those matches typically start and finish. So you could have already made that argument, but now when you start throwing in, we're going to putting on a suit now you're no different than putting on BDUs and camo and whatever else. You're
when
playing
you say
a part.
Suit, what are they? Are you talking
literally a suit, like a business suit?
Oh,
like literally
Okay. Good.
So they're LARPing.
Yeah. Literally.
They're playing John Wick.
Yeah.
And so there's an argument to be made that a lot of Krav Maga is moving in the right direction, and a lot of jiu-jitsu is moving in the wrong direction. Whereas if you just asked me 10 years ago, I would have said the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, with as much modesty as I can muster, I think we're doing it better than anybody else. But there are other people in the space that are doing it and doing it well. And I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah.
It may not be called Krav Maga, but we're going to see more of that. I don't know. I think jiu-jitsu is going to continue down the bad path for a little while before there's a correction there.
I think self-defense is such a buzz term. And if people don't really know it, if the consumer doesn't really know what it really is or what it really looks like, and this has been my complaint about jiu-jitsu for a long time on the entry side of things. Come take this jiu-jitsu class, or come take this self-defense class at our jiu-jitsu school. Yeah. But it's not, it's an intro to jiu-jitsu, not a self-defense class. Right. And you talk about wrist grabs or whatever, and then immediately you're pulling guard and you're introing to jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, you're making this term up. You're, that's just dishonest. And it is interesting that they're digging deeper into the dishonesty of it to validate jiu-jitsu for self-defense, rather than accepting there's still other things that you need to know outside of jiu-jitsu for self-defense.
Right. They're doing what Krav Maga has been doing for a long time. They are, well, if we change the attire and maybe we change the setting a little bit and we up the stakes, but not really, it just is performative. It looks that way.
Yeah.
Then now all of a sudden it's real.
It looks like we're taking into account real life.
Yes.
Because we have on suits and there's a gun.
Right.
Yeah. Is that part of why now for writing this book?
Yes. I mean, I think everybody has a good understanding of I've been doing this stuff for a while, and I've worked with a ton of high level people, on the jujitsu side, on the wrestling side, on the Krav Maga side, on whatever. And well, I had a conversation literally last week with a guy I've known for a long time. Very tough. He runs his own program. It's a very successful program in what I would call the combative space. Does a lot of firearms work, and he was talking about maybe opening up a small center where he is.
Don't do it.
And he was running some things by me, and he asked me if I was still using the term Krav Maga within my centers.
Yeah.
And I said yes. That we've kind of gone back and forth. We've vacillated on it. But we currently are. I said, no matter what, I think the term still has cachet out in the space, especially for people that don't know anything. It doesn't rank nearly as high as it used to in like SEO or whatever. I think self-defense probably still ranks higher than pretty much anything, or martial arts near me or something like that.
Yeah. Yep.
And he said, I really don't like the name Krav Maga. And I said, I understand, and I don't either, but it doesn't really matter what I like.
Yeah.
You have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And the term Krav Maga just means contact combat. Right. It's
right.
literally like it's saying combatives.
Yeah.
It's just Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look at it from the perspective of, I know what Krav Maga, contact combat, close combat, I know what it's supposed to look like. I know what it's supposed to be. I know what it's supposed to feel like. And I would like, and maybe this is egotistical as hell, I don't know, but I would like to reclaim the idea of what Krav Maga is supposed to be, and this is not me saying everybody else is doing it wrong. Everybody else is.
There are plenty of people.
Yeah, and they're open to their interpretations of what Krav Maga means. I see Krav Maga as a living, breathing, constantly evolving entity that does not care about where or who something comes from. It cares about the efficacy of it and how it can be assimilated into a system.
Krav Maga is so much more about literally contact combat. Is so much more about the user and where they are and their life than it is the actual system necessarily. Like what Krav Maga looks like in the US now is different than what it would have looked like 200 years ago in the US, is different than what it would look like in European countries now or 100 years ago and all of that.
And we know that Krav Maga wasn't around 200 years ago. That's not what she's saying.
Yeah. Contact combat.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why this is how Emi did it. Okay. It's like the JKD guys that teach Jeet Kune Do the way that Bruce Lee did in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bruce Lee was shouting from the rooftops about not adhering to a certain way or a dogma or tradition or whatever. I think he and probably Emi, and this is just me saying it, obviously I don't know, I think they would be mortified to think. I think Bruce Lee would be mortified to think that 50 years after his death, people are still teaching things the exact same way he was doing it, simply because that's the way he was doing it. It's antithetical to what these guys were saying. It's antithetical to what Emi was saying. It's antithetical to what Bruce Lee was saying. If you take the traditional Krav Maga logo, open at the bottom, open at the top, and the lore of that logo is it's open at the top to allow new information, new concepts, new principles, new techniques to flow in, and open at the bottom to allow the old ones to flow out.
They missed that part.
Then I think you're talking to me about pedigree. It's pathetic. If your training center, your organization, whatever, is teaching from the standpoint of we're doing this because it's in our pedigree, it's in our lineage, it's in our tradition, it's what the founder taught, whatever. That's not a training center. That's a library.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
a historical preservation.
Yes, you're in a museum, dude. Yeah. Like, and that's fine, but be honest about it.
Right. You know? Say that's what we're doing.
Right. I don't go to the museum of World War II museum to learn how to
do modern day
warfare.
Yeah.
Like, that would be insane.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there aren't lessons to be learned from it, but we are so far removed just from a technological standpoint, forget anything else, that it would make no sense for me to base very much of what I'm doing now on what they were doing then.
So in the book, you have a large portion in and of its own, but also throughout the book about coaching, about being a great coach, about, you know, I think it's called From the Front sections in the book, where it's okay.
Those are kind of throughout the section.
Right.
Yeah, or throughout the book.
Here's the information. Here's how you apply this as a coach. And so what are some of the top qualities you think self-defense coaches should have? Obviously, strict adherence to Bruce Lee.
Yes.
Among the top.
Dogma. Yeah. You should definitely be dogmatic.
Yep.
You should use always and never a lot. You should not allow people to ask questions, you know.
Well, which people?
No, listen, I believe in this space, really good self-defense, self-protection, Krav Maga instructors, combatives instructors, whatever you want to call them, coaches. I like the term coach, but they are open-minded. They are training. They are going and seeing how other people are doing things. They are bringing in other people. They're not afraid to expose their student base to the ways that other people do things. I've hosted, I don't know, probably 30, 40, hell, maybe more, coaches from outside in my centers in the past 2 decades. It's probably more than that.
It's easily more than that in 2 decades. Probably 30, 40 in the past 10 years.
Yeah. I would say 99 times out of 100, I don't know what they're going to teach. I've got an idea, but I don't know what they're going to teach. They could literally get out there and teach something diametrically opposed to things that I say or do. I'm not afraid of that, you know, because I will either see it and think, wow, that's pretty awesome. I wish I'd have thought of that. And I'll probably look to figure out how to implement it in what we're doing. Or I'm confident enough in what I'm doing to say, I understand why they're teaching it that way. This is why I teach it the way that I teach it, and will continue to teach it, you know? So being open-minded and getting exposure to other coaches and the way that other coaches do things, not being afraid of that just because they don't fit your pedigree or your lineage or whatever. People that kind of issue terms like always and never, those people always scare me. I shouldn't say always. Those people generally scare me a little bit, because I don't know how you can be so sure and so certain when it comes to something like violence. And you know, we say with some regularity that everything works and everything doesn't work, you know, and it comes down to the coaches to set students up for success based on probabilities and the likelihood, and then understanding timing and those kinds of things.
And that's usually how I talk about things. Is I can't, if somebody's asking me a question that might lead itself to always or never, it's usually, well, I can't think of a case where this might be true or that might not be true, or that sort of thing, you know, but that's not to say there isn't one. But in terms of likelihood.
If a coach is regularly saying things like always do this, never do that, that's a big red flag for me. If a coach is not incorporating sparring, you know, that's a red flag to me. I think coaches should be incorporating sparring into their, if the goal is to enhance your student survivability, they need to spar. You know, it needs to be controlled. They need to have a good understanding of how to do that. There's a whole chapter in the book about sparring and how to utilize sparring.
I feel like you're getting into some red flags in gyms to pay attention to as well.
Oh,
if
for
you're not
sure.
Sparring.
For sure.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of correlation there. Could there be a great coach at a gym with a lot of red flags?
Yeah.
Potentially.
Probably not, but
probably not. We don't want to say never.
I think coaches they have to be good communicators.
Mhm.
You know, in our space, it's easy to come across somebody that's really talented on the physical level, but doesn't transfer knowledge very well. And so a coach that can really communicate and really communicate to people that are less likely to be in the class,
Mhm.
they really need it, but less likely to be there. I think coaches should have a good understanding of how to teach to everybody, um, when we're talking self-defense.
Yeah.
If you're an MMA coach, maybe not.
Mm.
But for self-defense, I
Well, and
think,
if your goal in your gym is to create fighters,
right.
you
Yeah.
have narrowed into your niche, and that's an important consideration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we talked about, I feel like we talked about it maybe last episode, could have been a couple before that. It's nice to say what we do is for everyone. This place is for everyone.
Yeah.
The reality is it's not going to be.
Yeah.
How do you address inclusivity? Just women, trans students, older adults, without watering down what you're doing in a class.
I don't.
You don't approach it.
No.
You just do what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, it does not matter to me who's in my class in terms of race, religion, orientation, I mean, unless you're coming in with a swastika on your forehead, I I have no issues with people in my classes, and I've said this before. I'd venture to say that my classes on Tuesday, Thursday nights in Gastonia are the most diverse places in the county.
Easily.
Yeah.
So
I understand the question when there is a section on it, and there's a section on it as it relates to coaches as well.
I feel like it's also a very short.
It is.
Yeah.
Just like my answer to you was,
Yeah.
because I think, and it could be longer. I mean, you could expand upon it, but I think the important thing to understand from a coaching standpoint is there's no fighting is fighting, right? And while certain segments, demographics of the population might have to deal with different types of issues, so more scenario kind of work, and there's a whole section on how to build scenarios properly.
In here there is?
Yeah.
Very nice.
How to do good scenario training. Have you not read my book?
That's worth its weight in gold right there for the scenario training.
This is
flipped through
unacceptable.
Yeah.
This is the best self-defense book on the market.
It is.
You don't know. You didn't read it.
I have the book in human walking form right next to me.
This is the best. Listen, with no aggrandizement, there's no other book in the industry like this.
No, honestly, because I have a list of some of the topics, and I just tried to cherry pick some to go through, and it's all over. Surviving the legal fight. There's a special topic section.
There's a huge section about that, about the legalities of things and how to articulate it from a coaching standpoint, from a student standpoint, because I think those things are massively important and very, very rarely talked about in circle. You hear all the better to be judged by 12 and carried by 6 stuff. That's crap, and you're setting up your students not only for failure, but maybe for prison.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to your question about incorporating. Yeah. I'm not going to coddle people. I'm not going to treat them differently. I may recognize that they may have different concerns, and if I can address those within the kind of minutia of my class, then I will. But I think by and large, inclusivity means we're going to treat everybody like they belong. And if you tell me that your pronouns are whatever, then why do I care about that? I don't. No. I will respond in kind, and we keep it moving.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't want to take this too seriously. At the end of the day, I'm teaching people how to punch people in the face, and I think a lot of self-defense instructors, Krav Maga instructors, combative instructors, jiu-jitsu instructors, whatever, they quickly put themselves on this pedestal. And then once they're there, students kind of help prop them up because of the way that they carry themselves. And I think that's garbage, so I don't want people to think that just because you're a coach or an instructor and people view you in a certain way, at the end of the day, man, your skill set is pretty damn small. You're not curing cancer or anything like that. Like, let's keep it real with who we are and what we're doing. I think what we're doing is important.
Yeah.
But
what we do is so difficult, because if something ever happens, it would be nice if they do like the right thing, the train thing, whatever. But you want them to do something, you want them to get out alive, and you don't really much care what it looks like and whatever. But also the reality is they probably never end up in a situation where they have to use this, especially if you're doing your job right and helping them avoid situations and manage conflict. And so ultimately, this should just be a really fun hobby that gets them in great shape that they never really.
Well, and the great shape part, it's a very small section, but there's a very small section in here about defense from self. And I think there's a line that says something like, not everybody will face violence, but everybody will face themselves.
There is. I think Chris Pirelli posted about that. Yeah.
And, the idea of, I'm probably not going to have somebody put a gun to my head out in the parking lot, but I am going to have to make decisions about what I put in my mouth every day, and whether I make time to go work out, and, whether I get the regular checkups and I get the sleep that I need, I avoid things that I know are bad for me and that kind of stuff. If the goal of self-defense is to enhance my survivability, then the goal of defense from self is the same, but we have much more control over it.
Oh yeah, tons.
We don't.
Violence
a lot, but chooses me by and large. I don't really get a choice of who it is, time of day, how I'm feeling, all those kinds of things. When it comes to defense from self, I choose when I wake up. I choose the first things that I do once I'm up. I choose what time I go to bed. I choose the things that I do before that. And then I choose all the things that I do in between. As an adult, those are choices that I'm making. And if we're spending all this time and energy and effort, and this is what we do, so I'm here for it. But if we're spending all this time and energy and effort and money and whatever on learning how to deal with violence that hopefully never comes and likely doesn't, depending on where you're living, then why wouldn't we put at least that amount of effort into making sure that the things that we are more likely to have to deal with
and have control over.
Right.
Is that does that incorporate the fitness as a weapon idea, or is that something different? Yeah.
It's both. It does include that, and it is something different. Because the truth is, the stronger I am, the faster I am, the more in shape I am, the harder it is going to be for you to do damage to me. The easier it is for me to do damage to you, and the longer I'm going to be able to sustain that damage and run away if I need to. There's a gun shop in town that has a T-shirt that says, "I'm too fat to fight, I'll just shoot." Well, there's a lot of problems with that shirt, a lot.
Yeah.
But as it relates to this, again, that's something that I mostly have control over. Barring some kind of physical ailment, I mostly have control over that. And when you talk about fitness as a weapon, we've mentioned this before. Nobody in the history of mankind has ever gotten into a violent encounter and afterwards been like, you know what? I was just too strong. I was too fit. I spent too much time training. I can speak from personal experience and say that the opposite is much more likely to happen. Even if you come out on top, whatever that means, if you have a really good understanding of violence, you're going to come out of that thinking, why did I let it get to that point? Why was I not able to de-escalate? Why was I not able to recognize that there was a potential problem and just avoid it altogether? And then you'll start questioning every little thing that you did. Why did I get the underhook instead of take the overhook? Should I spend more time lifting weights? Should I spend more time on cardio? Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's never going to be the opposite of that.
No.
It's never going to be, well, I'm spending too much time taking care of myself.
In all of the intense type of training that I've done, whatever the simulation scenario, whatever we were doing, it's always been, how do I end this faster?
Yes.
Let me end this. Let me get to the end.
Right.
Not like, I feel pretty good right now. Let's keep going.
Yes.
It's like, how do I finish this fight?
Right. Right. And I mean, that's another lesson in and of itself, which, in a training environment is not always easy, but the idea of being able to harness the chaos and control the violence in a way that you can overwhelm somebody without trading one danger for another is massively important. And the more skilled you are and the better in shape you are, the more likely that is to come out in your favor.
You talk about that in the book too, training under chaos, and explaining, the difference between pressure testing and versus choreographed drills.
Right. Chaos agents,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a section on that,
We could probably tie a podcast episode to almost all of these sections.
Oh, 100%. But I don't want to give the whole book away because I need people to buy
it. Okay. Well, what tiny part do you want to give away so that they are more interested in buying it? Let me rephrase that. If readers are going to take away one thing, what's the one principle that you hope or thing that you think want readers to take away from this? The one thing, such that by doing everything.
Like, I truly believe there are no throwaway chapters in this book. There are no throwaway sections. There's nothing in here that I'm like, you could take it or leave it. Everything in there was written with a lot of intent and thought, and you could pick it up and read any chapter and it'll mostly stand alone. But
I would like to say that it is really well divided, and I don't know what viewers of this podcast are really going to be able to see, but there's plenty of posts on Ryan Hoover's accounts and Fit to Fight and all of that kind of stuff. Probably not, but the sections are really well labeled, and there are headers for everything so that you can tell where to find something. Like, this should be a quick, you can sit here and read it like a book.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it as a reference where you're
looking
for a specific,
there's
and it tells you how to use it.
I spent a lot of time on this book. People have asked me how long did it take me to write it, and my first answer is always like, well, it's about 20 years. Because
that's the electrician fixing something by hitting it answer,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of great forwards in here.
Yes.
Forward from Raul Martinez of Rogue Methods, and one from Chad Lyman.
C4C.
C4C, Las Vegas Metro Police.
What a great guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I say that every time you say. Raul is too.
Yeah. Very different guys.
Very different great types of greats, but great guys.
But so how to train with this book. There's a whole section on how to train with this book. I mean, I want people, the first line, and I won't read it, the rest of it, but the first line is, this isn't a textbook. It's a guide, a challenge, and a blueprint. So
keep reading. We'll just use it as part of your audiobook. By the way, I want to know who wants an audiobook.
Oh, I've had so many people say that. And I cannot imagine that people want to hear me read 300 pages of anything. Like, that sounds terrible to me.
I know you're not going to do it.
Yeah, but who should do it?
Oh, yes. Comment. Let us know. Obviously, Morgan Freeman probably a little busy right now, but
I want Samuel L. Jackson to read it.
Obviously.
Yes. He's probably not gonna do that, but Samuel L. Jackson would be great. Yeah, but I have had people ask me that, and I don't see that happening. At best, we may get an ebook out of it, but
so this isn't a textbook; it's a guide, a challenge, and a blueprint.
And then there's a bunch of stuff in between. And I'll read the final note here. It says, there are no graduates of real self-defense, only students who stay in the fight. This guide is incomplete because you're supposed to complete it for you. It's a map, not the destination. But basically, what I recommend is just kind of read straight through it. Mm-hmm. Start to back, however long that takes you. And then you can always come back and kind of, all right, I really want to dive deeper into this chapter or this section. I think there are a lot of checklists in the front sections and stuff like that for coaches, anybody teaching this stuff. I think it's a really good bit of reference material. I just saw this. I'll read this too. One of the bullet points says, argue with it, question it, pressure test it. If something doesn't work for you in the real world, fix it. Modern Krav Maga is alive. It evolves. So should you. To me, that's what everybody should take away from this book. That mindset, that mentality. just because it's here doesn't make it gospel. Just because I wrote it down on paper doesn't mean that that's what I will say in 6 months from now. I want people to understand that violence evolves, and we better as well.
You tackled this book like you tackle creating a program, like Edge of Reality. When you guys come in for a course, say August 16th and 17th in Charlotte, you're going to get some wrestling movements. You're going to get some techniques. You're going to integrate some striking. You're going to get some takedowns and controls and that sort of thing. And you're going to work through them with drills, but you're also going to be encouraged to use your own training to fill in the gaps and the spaces and to lead to the finish that is more comfortable for you. That is something within your fight background and making it your own.
Yeah.
The Edge of Reality program isn't you have to do this, this, and this because we said so and because it's in this video lesson or whatever. It's these are the ideas and the principles to guide you.
Yeah. And I understand that that's scary for some people.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Because a lot of people just want to be told A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah.
And I get it. From a coaching standpoint, it's a lot easier as well. We have all types come through any of our courses, but that course particularly, because knife is like the boogeyman in the self-defense genre.
Yeah.
So we have people from all backgrounds, and if you tend to be more of a striker, then I want you to understand wrestling, but I want you to use your wrestling to help facilitate your striking.
Yeah.
If you're more of a wrestler, then I want you to learn some striking, so your wrestling becomes better.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say you have to do X, Y, Z.
Right. Well, and there's a section of Edge of Reality in that book too. It's so interesting how that thought process comes together. And we were talking right at the beginning about jiu-jitsu guys putting on a suit and throwing in a gun.
Right.
When honestly, I think biases be what that is. If a jiu-jitsu person wants to start understanding how their skills apply to self-defense, come take a course like Edge of Reality, learn these basics, and again, start implementing, find where your jiu-jitsu fits in with the principles and the themes and the techniques to make them better, to enhance them.
And honestly, for the most part, they'll probably integrate really well. They'll probably assimilate really well.
Yeah.
They're going to learn, I hope, that some of the things that they might be inclined to do are not going to be the best of approaches. I don't want to, we show a lot of takedowns, we do a lot of takedowns, but we're generally not following them to the ground. We're not doing these long, protracted kind of
flows of
grappling engagements on the ground. When I am the top person and I'm mostly standing and that person is on the ground. Not that we couldn't show things from there. I think if we're going to play the odds and we're going to truly look to enhance somebody's survivability and be most efficient with the time that we have, that's just not where I'm going to place my emphasis, my priority.
Yeah. Okay. So to kind of tie this full circle back into you, your approach to writing this book looks a lot like your approach into building programs.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to know what your approach to writing looked like, because I know I've heard people say, based on pictures and some social media drops, you cook the way you fight. Like you have a very clear demeanor and process, and it is true.
Yeah.
So do you write the way you cook, the way you fight?
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I don't see my face when I'm writing, but I would imagine so.
You're writing something else right now, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually writing two of something else's. One is another one that has kind of been 10, 15 years in the making. I'm still a ways on that one.
Okay. You don't have to drop it here now, but what about the other one?
The other one is Fit to Fight After 50.
Okay.
That's
F's, man.
That's something that I get a lot of questions about.
Yeah.
Not necessarily 50, but because I'm after 50, that's what I'm going to use.
Fair.
But just being older and especially if you're new to fitness or you're new to self-defense or you're new to martial arts or whatever, there's a lot of people that we hear it from all ages. Well, I want to get in shape first before I come and train,
Yeah.
And so I want to, and it's written kind of in the style of College Bound to a degree. Short, easy to read. This is nothing like that.
Yeah.
This is much more
on the
in
thorough
depth
side of
and
things.
detailed, and these other things that I'm right. Well, one of them will be more like this, and then the 55 After 50 is more like college bound, quick, easy reads, easy to pick up, kind of knock it out. And then you can always go back and literally just pick any place in there and read that section and get something from it. So yeah, writing for me, it's something that I've always enjoyed, like always, literally always. Um, I feel like I developed my ability to express myself through writing because when I was younger, I was terrified of public speaking. Um, and even today, like obviously I do tons of public speaking, and I'm mostly unbothered by that. But even today, I'm not great on the small talk kind of like social interaction kind of engagement. It's not really what I'm good at. And I feel like in writing, I can say things and express myself in a way that I can't really do in the spoken word. Um, so I'm probably, yeah, probably right. Like I cook, and like I fight.
I'll try to get some behind the scenes photos this round.
Pretty. Well, I told you I came in here one day where we're at where we do this. I don't know if we've ever posted it or said or whatever is
Alchemy Co-working.
Alchemy Co-working here in downtown Gastonia, and they just opened up another one in Charlotte. But normally if I come here to do any kind of work, I'm throwing in my earbuds, and I was so engrossed in whatever I was doing that day that I never. Not only did I not put my earbuds in, I never even thought, like, it never even crossed my mind until the next day. I thought about what I'd written, and I was like, I didn't even think to put my earbuds in. And I was here for like, I don't know, it was a couple of hours, and just knocked
Sat
out
down
a
and got it done.
bunch of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, probably.
Good deal. All right. Is there anything
But I mean, truthfully, that's how I do pretty much everything. Like I just, I'll tell a quick story. So we have on, and actually this is in the book too. We have on in our centers this poster that talks about, look, this is a positive place. The energy that you bring to it that's on you. There's a copy of it in here, and this was during Hard Ready Unlisted, and we had a guy in town for that. And at some point, he asked me if he had done anything to offend me or make me mad or whatever. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I just, I read the poster and I wanted to make sure that, I didn't do or say. And I'm like, no, why are you asking that?
Yeah.
And he's just like, I don't know, just your whole. I'm like, bro, that's my face. That's the face I was born with. It's what I got.
It's the one he has and the one he uses.
Yes. You were born and you grew up to be 6'2". I was born and I grew up to this. Like I don't know what to tell you. So yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's our look at the incomplete episode. If you enjoyed this discussion, leave us 5 stars.
By the way, hang on. By the time this drops tomorrow, it's still not going to be up for pre-order, it sounds like.
Hopefully.
I don't know. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. It's supposed to be up for pre-order sometime within the next week. And there are some people that contributed through the campaign that we ran at a certain level that have some of the copies out. And then Raul and Chad have copies because they wrote forwards. And then Carlisle, who did our photography. Photography's awesome. I'm super happy with what he did there. He has a copy, and so there's a few random copies out there. So if you see people making posts or whatever, don't freak out.
Yeah.
They didn't like have some in with Amazon or anything like that.
Not that we know of.
Not that I know of.
But if you have an in with Amazon, let us know, because we just have to check regularly, like daily, multiple times a day, to see if it's gotten listed or anything. They don't alert us. They don't alert the publisher. We just have to keep checking. So
and honestly, like, pre-orders are a big deal with this. So if you have any interest in College Bound or any interest in this book, please pre-order it, because that's how they base their inventory, their stock, what they're going to do with the book, if they're going to do anything with the book. And so as soon as it hits, College Bound is already up there, but as soon as it hits, hit that pre-order.
Yes, please and thank you.
Yes.
In the meantime, let us know who should do the narration, just in case we can't get Samuel L. Jackson. Want to hear your backup plans. Subscribe, share. If you didn't like this, continue to share it and talk about how terrible it is.
And pre-order the book.
And still pre-order the books and hate us there too. It's great. Thanks for listening to Second Plan A, and we look forward to growing with you next time.
Thanks, everybody.